what are the changes that you have seen over the last 20 years in the market for Burgundy?
Well, the Primo market has expanded enormously. There's no doubt about that. People are prepared to come and taste, and indeed seriously enjoy coming to taste these young wines. Actually, tonight we've got a lot of private customers coming, and they will have an extremely good time, I'm sure, with this wonderful 2014 vintage. That didn't happen 15, 20 years ago. I remember there was a Primo tasting of the 1980 vintage, which was not very good. I'm sure you won't remember. Which was reasonably well attended, but only by professionals. Desperately trying to remember the house that did it, but that was extremely unusual at the time. Extremely unusual. So it's developed in a big way. It's sort of Primo week in London over this last 15 or so years. And with it, of course, the sales have developed, and there's a much more interest in Burgundy today than there was 20 years ago. There's no two ways about it. Everybody bought Bordeaux systematically in the old days. They understood Bordeaux, thought they understood Bordeaux, and Bordeaux gave them what they wanted, basically. Burgundy is much, as you know, much more complicated to understand, and much more difficult for folk. And indeed, going back 20 years, relatively speaking, was expensive, and people were frightened of it. It's a complicated place, don't understand it, so I'll stick with Bordeaux. I'm afraid that Bordelais have rather squandered that advantage in recent years, to be brutally frank, and people are rather fed up with what's happened in the last 5-6 years about pricing, and a lot of people are coming over to Burgundy. I mean, you know, I speak as somebody who also gets involved in the Bordeaux Primo market. But it's somehow just a bit tainted these days, I'm afraid, which is very sad in market terms, not in Venus terms.
The price has gone up a little bit for Burgundy as well, haven't they? Because there have been a few very small harvests.
No, absolutely. But they're sort of honest price increases, because I mean we're talking about people who have, it's taken them 3 vintages to harvest 1 vintage in terms of volume. Therefore, prices have had to go up. Especially those domains that are big enough to actually employ people. They've got to pay salaries. Of course, they've got to buy their bottles and their corks and everything else.
We're talking about Volnay and Pommard and Beaune in particular, aren't we?
With the dreadful hail that they've suffered in recent years, they've lost big volumes, but that's on the back of naturally small vintages like 10 and 12 as well. So it's been really tough for them, and Burgundy is an expensive beast. There's no two ways about it. And actually, Bordeaux, if you look with a cold eye, does still provide excellent value for money at certain levels. The Cru Bourgeois or the Menot, when they're well made, offer fantastic value for money. But it's this sort of global impression people have that, well, to be brutally frank, that I think they're screwing it, to put it crudely, so they've, the heart has drifted away from Bordeaux. Where's it going to drift to? Burgundy. And but it's lovely to have these chaps here at our tasting. The man that made, or woman that made the wine is there pouring it for you. You don't really get that.
Don't get that with Bordeaux.
Well, not even we don't get that in Bordeaux, for God's sake. Well, very occasionally, but very rarely.
Do you think the quality of Burgundy and consistency has increased over the period?
Undoubtedly. We're on a great run of vintages, but also the quality of winemaking is huge. I was just talking to somebody in the room. There's a lot of hail, as we just said, in the last 2 or 3 vintages. Back in the 80s, that would have resulted in dreadful wine, because they had to. They wanted volume. They wanted every drop they could squeeze. Therefore, hail-affected grapes went in that cuve, and you could taste it, Coup de Grêle. And the vintages from the 80s that are just a write-off from that point of view, apart from the very best estates. Today, we have a room full of a lot of wines that were hailed. Not a hint of Coup de Grêle. They're all pure, they're clean, they're wonderful, because they now have the confidence, and indeed the moyens, as the French would say, to be able to throw away volumes of fruit that have been affected by hail, and not involve them in the cuve.
Yeah, selection has been a huge part of the development in quality.
Yeah, you now got people like Loeb buying optical Table de Tree, which cost a fortune. six-figure amount of money, but it's worth them investing in it to maintain the quality, the drive of quality over the last 20 years, 15 maybe. It's just been like that. It's fantastic. We're in a genuine golden period for Burgundy, no doubt about it.
Do you worry at all about the cult of the celebrity grower?
I don't know. I like chaps with boots on, gum boots.
True Burgundian. But some of these stratospheric prices that have been traded on the internet, is that a worry for Burgundy, or is it so small that it doesn't really affect the general impression?
Small in terms of the volume of wine produced. Yeah, it's such a different market to Bordeaux. I don't like using the word investment, and I don't use the word investment even when we've got a Bordeaux market running, because it's very different. We're not investment. We're wine people. We talk about wine. We don't talk about bloody investment. And that's the difference between those two markets, between Bordeaux and Burgundy. To me, it's Bordeaux. You can fix a price to a certain degree because there's a volume of wine out there on the market. With Burgundy, the volumes are so small that what is the right price for this wine? Be it new from the grower, be it from a secondary market type situation. Very difficult to say, actually, and therefore it makes it very difficult. If somebody wants to sell their cellar back to us because they've got too much wine, then it's very difficult to value that, to be honest. It's a totally different market. But in terms of celebrity winemakers, I was joking, but I don't really know any. Actually, we have farmers.
You deal with the real people.
Well, I like to. I try to.